Aloha, and how's it? Today we're talking all about how you can get the right attention on LinkedIn so that you can grow your business and scale your impact as an expert. So, more on that in a minute. How was your weekend? We had a really good time with the family with some fun size waves, so not too crazy big. And we caught a little bit of drone footage. So, if you really like drone footage, you want to see waves, you want to see sunsets, check out my Instagram at Mindy R. Rosser. So there's two R's in the middle, where I actually will be sharing a recent wave of mine in the next day or so. That was super fun. I'm also kind of coming off a hamstring injury from surfing. So I can actually move my leash to my front foot. From my front foot to my back foot. So basically, if you're not familiar with surfing, you want your leash usually on your back foot because otherwise it gets tangled up and stuff when you are trying to take off. So I now can put it on my back foot and it's very, very exciting. So, got to celebrate the little things. You got to be grateful. So, I've also got a new custom surfboard coming in a few weeks. So, as soon as it is here, I am going to change up my background. And I'm not going to tell you what color it is, but it is not white. So, that should be fun. And I will have to tell you how that goes for those of you who like the surfing stuff. All right, now it is time for Mondays with Mindy. This is a weekly show on Monday afternoons if you're based in the US where I talk about all things LinkedIn pipeline, promo, and profiles, what I like to call the three P's of LinkedIn. So, a little teaser for those of you who love podcasts like me. My very first podcast, The Mango Effect, is actually launching on April 4th. So, the trailer episode is up now at mangoeffect.com if you want to check it out, and also on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to podcasts. So go ahead and subscribe because there's going to be like 10 episodes dropping all on April 4th on a bunch of different topics. I am super, super excited because it's really different. I feel like it's a different medium and I'm able to go a little bit deeper. It's a safe place. I can talk about topics that aren't just LinkedIn centric. So this podcast, it will be very different from these live streams that you're familiar with. It'll be like fresh content, new perspectives, not so LinkedIn centric. We'll be talking about creating our lifestyles by design and also some pretty juicy topics that relate to entrepreneurship, health and well being, surfing, relationships, building a business or career with intention. Lots of good stuff there. All right, so I'm starting to post some teaser snippets on Instagram at Mango Effect Podcast if you want to check them out. If you're curious about the podcast, look it up. All right. Have questions about LinkedIn that you want me to answer? Be sure to like this post, whether you're watching live or from the replay. Leave your questions below, and I will answer them after the show or on a future episode of Mondays with Mindy. I get a lot of ideas from those of you who chime in or send me a message and say, Mindy, can you please cover this specific topic? So, this topic, today's topic that we're talking about, actually came from a listener request. So, what is the secret to getting attention on LinkedIn? Do you feel like you have like this great message? You look at something through a completely different lens, but nobody is hearing it. So last week we talked about the ins and outs of LinkedIn creator mode, and that leads us really to today's topic where we're going to talk about how you can attract the right people to your profile and start getting more opportunities. So we all know exactly what it feels like to get the wrong type of attention. It may be attention, but it leads absolutely nowhere. It can turn people away, it can give the wrong impression. And I feel like a lot of experts on LinkedIn these days will attempt various tactics that game the LinkedIn algorithm for the sake of getting attention. The problem is the type of attention they get is not actually leading to credibility. It's not building brand equity, and it's not reinforcing their areas of expertise. So, for example, have you ever seen one of those like cute, adorable puppy pictures that makes you stop the scroll and go, oh, that's such a cute puppy? And you find yourself not thinking and you just kind of hit a reaction on the post. You like it, you love it, and maybe you throw in a comment about your own pet. So, what did you actually think about the person posting that piece of content, though? Have you ever stopped to think about that? Did that piece of content actually reinforce their areas of expertise? Probably not, unless their business is working with pets, in which case you should be posting a ton of puppy pictures. So, you might have subconsciously thought that they were just trying to get the attention and engagement to boost their numbers. And you'd likely be correct in that assumption. I think a lot of us have been tempted to post things just to get engagement, like, oh, but this will make my numbers look good. This will kind of show my personal side. I wonder if this would actually get my numbers up. Maybe more people would feel attracted to me if I got a little more personal on LinkedIn. So, short term, a lot of these types of posts can get engagement, but it's at the expense of harming the personal brand. Long term, you're going to associate this person, especially the example I used with the puppy picture, you're going to associate that person with someone who's willing to cheapen their personal brand and simply do stuff for the sake of getting attention. Is that building trust? Answer that question. I mean, like in your head, that might not be building the type of trust that you want. Is it a clever strategy if you're an expert? I would argue most of the time, probably not so much. If you're not an expert and interested in creating a highly valued personal brand around your areas of expertise, then by all means, post whatever you want. You probably wouldn't care to watch this live stream, anyways. We are here because we are very, very interested in getting the attention of the right people with the right message so that we can unlock the power of LinkedIn for our business. But we've got to play the long game. And we can't get sidetracked by things that are going to give us those short term boosts of dopamine. You know, we get those dopamine hits when everyone likes our posts. We feel warm and fuzzy inside. But is that actually leading to new business for us? Okay, that really is the question. Is it leading to building your personal brand? Are people going to say, wow, that was an insightful piece of content. If I am going to see an expert and solve that problem, he or she is that person because you posted that puppy pic? Probably not. So, to do this effectively, to really get the attention, the right attention, we have to start thinking about how we test our messaging on LinkedIn. So, what resonates, what doesn't? How do we get people to engage with the content that leads to sales or new business relationships? That is the goal of content. It is not to entertain, it is not just to get likes, it is not for our personal benefit so that we can feel good about ourselves because people like us, because people like our content. I'm an Enneagram 3. And I love it when people like my stuff. I love getting comments. I love engagement. But too many times I have gone down rabbit trails for the sake of getting engagement because it made me feel good. And it didn't actually lead to business growth. It did not actually lead to building my personal brand. It did not actually lead to helping people solve their problems. It led to me getting a need met that didn't need to be met by a like on a social post. So we have to go deeper with this. We have to raise our hands when we are doing things that are not leading to business growth. We have to own them. We have to take responsibility. We have to do things differently. All right, I'm getting on my soapbox. So, aloha, for those who don't know me, my name is Mindi Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindi Rosser Marketing, and I have a group program called the LinkedIn Accelerator for those who want to go from 0 to 60 on LinkedIn with their profile and their network. So, the next cohort, super excited about this one. It's opening for enrollment in early April. So, make sure to get on the wait list if you want to be the first notified. I will put the link in the comments. I will also share the link at the end of this live. So make sure to get on the list. So my specialty is really helping superstars who feel they are the best kept secret in their industry to become that go-to visible expert in their niche so they can get that next opportunity, so they can grow their business and scale their impact on LinkedIn. And that's why we're here today. So in this live, we are going to talk about why you're not getting the right type of attention on LinkedIn, which is causing you to lose credibility fast and not grow your business as quickly as you want. And then we're going to talk about how you can actually start running these LinkedIn experiments to test your messaging so that you can get more clients and business opportunities this year. The goal is to really be able to point to LinkedIn and say, hey, I used LinkedIn this year and I was able to get this number of opportunities. When you can do that, then it's really easy to make the investment in LinkedIn and actually know that you're going to make your money back and receive a very healthy return on that investment. And that's really what our goal is today. It's like, okay, let's get the right attention. Let's do this right. So let's hop right in. Go ahead and like this post, whether you're live or watching from the replay, to give it some social love. All right. So if you're posting content with the intention to get engagement at any cost, you're going to destroy your personal brand faster than you can say thingamajig on LinkedIn. So, as social creatures, we are all wired to see right through what I call marketing crap. And that's what it is. That is created with the sole purpose of getting us to engage and boost someone else's numbers. So, will we engage the very first time we see something? We probably will, especially if it catches us at just the right moment. For example, like we talked about with that puppy picture, if it caught me at a moment where I'm like, oh, I would love to have a pet right now, I probably would have liked it. But most of the time I look at 'em like, "Ah, you're just trying to get engagement." So you have to think about these things and pay attention to your reactions to other people's content because you will learn a lot about what works, what doesn't, and how it makes you feel on the inside. You can use that intuition, that gut feeling to actually inform your content as well. So, will we continue to engage or pay attention the next time we see somebody post something that we know is just like gamifying or trying to play with the algorithm or something just kind of trying to get our attention in that moment? Probably not, unless we are just wanting to be entertained and we're not a serious buyer or a potential client. So, a really good way to look at this, I'm going to use an example here. We're all going to go back to middle school right now, just for a couple minutes. Does anyone really want to go back there? Probably not, but here we go. So remember, when you were in middle school, there probably was this type of person. I can picture two people right now that were like the class clown. And they got everyone in the class to laugh. If there was a prank to play on the teacher, they were good at it. If they wanted to crack a funny joke, if they were good with words, they would do that and the whole class would burst out laughing. So these class clowns, these two that I'm thinking of, they were really good at getting attention on themselves and pulling away attention from Mr. Smith teaching another fascinating geology class. But being classed as the funny guys did not actually earn them much respect outside the fact that, if you wanted to disrupt the class or, there was a substitute teacher there and you wanted to make some jokes, you'd call on these guys. You'd make sure that they were ready to rock and roll. But when it came time to vote for the class president that year, was it those 2 funny guys that we voted for? No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't at my in my middle school. So, they didn't have the respect of someone who may not have gotten as much attention, but who always seemed to get the right attention and exactly how he or she wanted to be perceived. So, the class president was really that person that you looked at him or her and you thought, you've got a good head on your shoulders. You know when to get attention, but in the right ways. You know how to be perceived. You can play the game. You are very smart in your decision making, and you know how to get people on your side. So, as experts, it really is not about getting the most attention on the socials, just like it wasn't about who got the most attention in the class. It was about who had the right type of attention, even if it was a lot less when it actually mattered. So I know this is a silly example, but we can all relate to this type of behavior because as adults, we still have that little middle schooler inside of us. So too many influencers, or what I like to call the wannabe thought leaders, are using the class clown approach to get attention because it works. But what they do not realize is that when it actually comes to driving new business and getting people to trust you enough to buy from you, that entertainment factor is often not enough. So, what can we do instead? If it's not about being the class clown, it's not about entertaining people necessarily, how can we attract people and get enough attention from the right people to grow our business? Okay, so we know we don't want to be the funny person on LinkedIn and we need a better approach. So, this is where LinkedIn becomes a bit more of a game when it comes to messaging and what you're sharing, your content. And when I'm talking about messaging, I'm talking beyond your content, but very, very much so about the content that you're posting, how you're presenting yourself, what you're commenting on. All of that is messaging. Every single word that you type, every single interaction that you have, that is messaging. So you're going to run a messaging experiments on LinkedIn where you test a concept, an idea, a format, a graphic, a methodology, or something that you think is going to resonate with your ideal audience. So this messaging should directly align with your areas of expertise. Very, very important. So what do you want to be known for? And how do you want to build your credibility? For example, when people think of you, they will probably automatically categorize you, if you're doing this well, into a bucket. So they will say, oh yeah, that's that SaaS guy that knows how to get me leads. Or that's that marketing agency owner that works with this very specific tech type of companies. You automatically categorize people into buckets. So here are some examples. Okay, so I'm going to throw out a name and then tell me what you think of immediately. So when you think of Seth Godin. If you're in the marketing space, you know Seth Godin. What comes to mind for me is he's the marketing guy. Oh, and he wrote that book, Purple Cow. All right, so let's try another one. Brene Brown. All right. So she's the expert on vulnerability. We're like, oh, yeah, she had that really, really famous TED talk. We think of Tim Ferriss. I think most people probably think immediately of the 4-hour work week, though he's tried to rebrand himself as the 4-hour chef, all of these other 4-hour things. I still think he's still the 4-hour work week guy. What about Vishen Lakiani? Some of you may know him. When I think of Vishen, I think Mind Valley and A-Fest. Like he's that guy that's created like this masterful educational like conglomerate that is just incredible education at scale. One more. So Simon Sinek. What's your why? Okay, so you see how we associate certain people and certain, these are all very strong personal brands with various topics. And there's something that comes immediately to mind for most of us when we hear their names. So when people are thinking of you, what are they going to say there? Like for me, when people talk to me and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're like this LinkedIn person, but you have this different perspective. Like you don't do it like everyone else." So that's what people think of when they think of me. So what do people think of when they think of you? All of the incredible experts that we look up to have done an excellent job hammering home their messaging and associating a very specific topic with their personal brand. So, yes, it may get boring because you're saying the same thing like over and over and over again, but it reinforces the concepts that you are the best, you are the only, you are the one right way to do this very specific thing as an expert. You want that. You want that repetition. You don't want to keep it exciting for yourself. When you are marketing, when you are messaging, this is not about entertaining yourself. This is not about you talking about all these unique and various different things. If that's what you're going to do, go start a passion project to do that. I actually did. That's why I started my podcast because I wanted to talk about other things besides LinkedIn. So that is separate from what I'm doing here on LinkedIn as an expert. So, yes, they are separate. Yes, I am the same person. So you can still be seen as the same person and have multi passionate things. Like you can do multiple things. But on LinkedIn, if you want results, you have to start positioning yourself as the expert for very specific topics. What are the problems you're solving? We're going to get into that a little deeper. So, how do you start testing messaging on LinkedIn to figure out, okay, Mindy, what should I or what could I be known for? I might be very, very clear on this. I might not. So if you want attention on LinkedIn, you have to stand for something that your audience cares about and wants. If they don't care about it, but you're really good at it, it doesn't matter. If they don't want it and you care about it, it still doesn't matter. So it has to be something that they care about, that they want. It has to be something that really touches them on that deeper professional level. So, how do you figure out your messaging strategy? If you haven't sat down to think deeply about your messaging, it's high time that you do so as an expert. Too many experts just kind of start talking, is what I call it. They're like, start talking about concepts and ideas that seem to be kind of all over the place for their audience. There's not a common thread that people can look at that ties it all together. So you have to think about this from the perspective of your audience. If they are coming across your content as an expert, your job is to make whatever you teach, whatever you're an expert at, as simple, straightforward, and streamlined as possible. Okay? Simple, straightforward, streamlined. That means people should be able to consume any piece of your content without wondering what type of expert you are, what your content themes are, and how you can help them. If people are wondering, what type of expert is he or she? I'm not exactly sure what they sell, then you are not doing your job as an expert with your messaging. So if there's anything unclear about your messaging and people have to think too hard about where to put you in the bucket, like, why are you talking about this? You've already lost them. It's got to be crystal clear, even when you think it should be more complex or it should be more interesting. You don't want to focus on all those multi-passionate things when it comes to your content on LinkedIn. Really, really focus your energy here. So, as an expert on LinkedIn, representing yourself on LinkedIn, you really have to represent the one thing you want to be known for. I know a lot of you will argue and say, hey, I have more than one thing. I have this business and this side project. When you're focusing on your messaging and your content, that content should be focused on the one thing that how are you wanting to drive business? How are you wanting to drive opportunities? It all should lead to that one thing. So until you develop that irrefutable expertise in that one thing, you do not add a bunch of other seemingly unrelated themes to your content. Okay, so you got it? One thing. You're focusing your messaging on one thing. You may do a lot of other things, but the bulk of your messaging is focused on that one thing. All right, so let's talk about four questions that you should ask yourself as you are figuring out your messaging approach. So, first, what type of expert are you? I know this may sound like, oh, of course, I know I'm this type of expert. You may have a resume filled with all sorts of experiences, but you have got to get clear on what type of expert you consider yourself to be. Otherwise, you are going to confuse the heck out of people on LinkedIn. Yes, I'm telling you to put most of your eggs in one basket when it comes to messaging if you want to get the most return on your investment from your content. If you are seen as, okay, she's on the board over here, she's the CEO of this company, she kind of talks about these nonprofits that she's a part of, it can be very confusing for people. Yes, you can be a part of all those things, but think about the one main intention for LinkedIn right now. You can always change it later, but you want your messaging to really be mostly focused on that one thing. If you are trying to be known as an expert, you want irresistible content. One thing, one thing. So, we are all multifaceted human beings. We already know this. You don't have to prove that you are multifaceted on LinkedIn. What you do need to prove is why you are the go to expert in your niche for whatever it is that you do best. That is what your messaging should do. If your messaging does not continue to reinforce the type of expert that you are not going to be able to grow your business on LinkedIn. And I've had a lot of people come to me and say, Mindy, help me because I'm doing all these different things, but I'm not getting leads. And I'm like, well, let's look at your profile. Like what is your headline? What are you talking about? And they're kind of talking about like their full-time job, their part-time gigs, they do consulting over here. It's like you're confusing the heck out of people. Nobody knows what you do. And yes, all of those things can be listed on your profile, but when you are messaging, when you are interacting with people, you really want to focus on the one main thing for LinkedIn. For example, if you sell a SaaS product, but your content actually sounds like that of a high level consultant, there's going to be a little bit of a mismatch between the type of expert you are and why people should come to you. So, can your content still be insightful? Yes, of course, it can still be insightful, but it still needs to be crystal clear what type of expert you are and how that matches what you sell, which leads us to the next question. What do you sell? What you sell makes a world of difference on LinkedIn because people need to know this from the get go before they start to trust you. And you're thinking, Mindy, does that mean I need to be pitching and salesy? I don't want to be salesy on LinkedIn. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, people need to understand if they go to your LinkedIn profile, what do you actually sell? Do you sell professional services? Are you an entrepreneur who's simply a subject matter expert? Maybe you work for a reputable company. Are you a sought after consultant who specializes in a very niche market? Do you sell a product? Are you a salesperson? Are you a marketing agency owner? That should be very clear. And I know it sounds like, well, it's on my profile, but it needs to be. I've seen a lot of profiles where it just was not clear. And it's like you sell products, services, you also have a SaaS company. Like, what's the main thing that you're doing here? So we need to make it very clear for people. All of this what I call contextual information is really important for your audience to know about you because they will then understand that your underlying motivation should be leading them towards your services, your product, or your training. We all understand this as consumers. All marketing, all messaging is leading us to get closer on that buying journey, on that path. Somewhere buying it, even if it's buying into an idea, even if you're not selling them a physical thing or a service, you're getting them to buy into an idea, a concept, a way of looking at the world. So people want to know why you're leading them on this journey. And when they know what you sell, this makes it very clear why you are talking about the topics you are talking about. So if it looks like you sell multiple things or you kind of service everyone, they are not going to feel as strong of an attraction to you. As customers, we all want to feel special. We want to feel like we have the one, right, only best product or service or expert to help us solve our problems. So make it very, very clear on your LinkedIn profile exactly what you sell. And your content should match that vibe and it reinforces your brand. You're going to notice a shift. And sometimes it seems like it's very subtle. You may just have to change a few little words here and there, but it makes a world of difference in the amount of business that you can get from LinkedIn. All right, so number 3, who do you sell to? So, who's your audience, right? Well, you've got to know your audience, and your audience may be different on LinkedIn than it is on other social channels. So, if you're new to your niche, or maybe you're testing like a different market on LinkedIn, you will definitely need to be like a little bit patient as you test your messaging on LinkedIn. It may be a different vibe than you're accustomed to on other channels. You may notice that different themes come up, and people actually pay more attention to this theme versus that theme. So really pay attention and be attuned to different themes on LinkedIn and messaging types. So what I tend to recommend, if you're like, okay, I could talk about a bazillion things related to my product, I recommend coming up with 3 or 4 different themes that all lead back to your areas of expertise and your offerings. So your content should revolve around those 3 or 4 themes. So you want to pay attention to these themes. Which ones are resonating more? You can test this messaging on LinkedIn, or what I have even done if you are very familiar with other social channels and you're just kind of coming to LinkedIn, but you've tested your messaging elsewhere, you start with the ones that performed really well. So start with those themes. You can repurpose content from other channels, rework it a little for LinkedIn, just remembering that people have their professional hat on when they are on LinkedIn, and you will see which themes tend to perform best. So I'll give you an example here. I talk about here are my themes: LinkedIn profiles, growing your network, doing social selling, and marketing on LinkedIn. Those are my big 4. So all of my content touches on those themes from different angles. So my products and services also align with solving these types of problems, which leads us to our final question. Which problems do you help your audience solve? This may seem very obvious, but as experts, it's easy to get sidetracked and start providing what I call providing commentary or solutions to problems that are like trendy in the industry or in your market right now. But if someone actually asked you to solve that problem for them, you might have a hard time doing it. So, commenting on trends in areas that are not your areas of expertise, it's key that you stick to the problems you solve best, even if they're not sexy, even if you feel like I'm tired of talking about this. If you want to be the expert in that area, you got to keep talking about it. Your business is not here to entertain you. Your business is there to grow, to help people, to serve your audience. Repetition is good. So if there are things you want to comment on that are outside your areas of expertise or problems that you don't really solve, you know a little bit about, then the best idea there is to refer out to other experts in your industry or maybe share their content, maybe do some resharing, and they may be a better resource for your audience on those topics. Stick to your 3 to 4 themes. You talk about those things over and over and over again. All of your messaging should reinforce that you solve this problem with a specific methodology or approach. And here are some examples or scenarios and results that you can point to verify that you're the expert. So you solve a specific problem. You have a specific approach that is different from others. You are the expert because you have generated these results. So does this take time to get your messaging to this level? I'm not going to say it doesn't. It does, but it will make it very clear to your audience that they can and should trust you when they need this problem solved. Okay, so there you have it. We talked about a lot. We talked about changing how we look at our messaging, how we can be perceived as experts and not just go for that gamification. Really what we should be focused on with our messaging is growing our business, not entertaining ourselves, not just trying to get likes for the sake of likes. So we talked about a lot of things. So let's do just a quick recap on what we talked about. Number 1, figure out what type of expert you are, because this is going to affect the way that you approach your messaging and your content and how you talk about it. Number 2, you want to make sure that you are clear and make sure that others understand what you sell. You may know what you sell, but look at your LinkedIn profile to make sure it is very clear that others can tell what you sell. Then number 3, who do you sell to? Which audience are you targeting right now? Be specific. Like sometimes we say, well, we could actually help everybody. You probably really can't help everybody. Even if your audience is broad, there are still some very specific things in a way that you need to connect with your audience on a deeper level. Show that you understand them. Then, number 4, and the final question to ask is which problems do you solve? And I would also add, which problems do you solve best? Like, what is your secret sauce? Like, where do you do things different than other people? You want to make sure that you're setting yourself apart from other experts that are in your niche and maybe solve similar problems, but not exactly like you do. All right, so we covered a lot today. What additional questions do you have about getting the right type of attention on LinkedIn? Leave them below in the comments or shoot me a private message. I am happy to answer them. I love this stuff, as you can tell. I get on my soapbox. I love talking about this. I love helping others who are trying to kind of break into LinkedIn, figure this out. So if you're ready to get started with LinkedIn and take that next step to optimize your profile once and for all so you can start growing your network on the regular or land your next opportunity in 2022, join me inside the LinkedIn Accelerator program. We are kicking off in early April. I am really excited about this next cohort. If you are interested, grab that link, pop your name into it, and I will hope to see you inside the cohort. All right, until next week, I will be here next week, same time, same place, Mondays with Mindy. Feel free to leave questions or comments below, and my inbox is always open if you want to message me directly too. So have a beautiful rest of your week. I will see you all soon. Bye for now.